How's it going, everyone? Wanted to invite you to come along on the journey of this Sega Saturn Retrofit project in order to bring the awesomeness that is the Sega Saturn to the modern age of home theater and gaming entertainment. Sega Saturn was known for its excellent array of first-party Sega titles, of many arcade ports, and also the great selection of arcade-perfect Capcom fighting games that were ported to the Sega Saturn. Part of this project was to get a lot of modern quality of life enhancements, such as the Terra Onion mode installed in the Sega Saturn. The mode is an optical drive emulator. Actually, that's part of the acronym, Multiple Optical Drive Emulator. Essentially, over time, the lasers that the CD drives that were put into the Sega Saturn eventually stopped working, and this being, pushing almost a 30-year console now. Replacement parts are harder and harder to find. Another issue that has plagued the Sega Saturn, as well as its competitors at the time, is the dreaded disc rot phenomenon. And what I mean by that, let me illustrate with this copy of Retrofit 2 that I have. Disc rot is a phenomenon that happens with game discs over the past 25-30 years, that whether due to just poor construction of the game disc or just the chemicals used to construct the silver reflective part of the disc, over time have actually chipped off. And you can see that here. You can see the holes clearly through the game disc. And basically, this renders this game completely and utterly useless. When the laser goes to read those sectors of the disc, there actually is no physical data on that portion of the disc, since the reflective material is actually chipped off. So this is a completely broken game, a wasted $50 game at retail. Probably now that because Sega Saturn collecting has become a lot more expensive, probably now a whole lot more. So this is a very big problem with game consoles of this era. What the mode does is that it's essentially an FPGA-based emulator that tricks the system into believing that a real CD and CD drive are installed in the system. Basically, the game content is copied off and stored on either a flash memory drive or a SATA-based solid-state drive or hard drive, and presented through the mode to the system whenever the system requests read access to the disk. Thus, the system thinks that the real disk is inserted, reading off of a laser-based CD-ROM rather than an image and virtual drive. If any of you have used virtual drive emulation on a PC, such as Daemon Tools and the like, this is essentially the same thing, just a hardware form factor for the Sega Saturn. One nice thing about the mode, just a quick plug to Terra Onion, this hardware is compatible with both the Sega Saturn and the Sega Dreamcast, in addition to the Sony PlayStation with an optional adapter. So this product is an incredibly versatile emulator for many different consoles, and I hope to do future videos with both the Dreamcast and the PlayStation as time goes on. For right now, as many of you know, growing up I was a diehard Sega fanboy, and really loved Sega as a company. Their product always seemed to be kind of hip and edgy, and really gave you that incredible arcade experience at home. And I've been kind of waiting for something like this, I should say for a time like this, to get involved with retrofitting the Sega Saturn to a more modern era. So the mode is definitely something that we're going to be looking at a little bit later on. In addition, we're going to be switching out the old S-Video connector that I had previously attached to the Saturn with a Retrotech 2X. This is a product by Retrotech LLC, a local company here in San Diego. And these are line doublers and upscalers. These products specifically designed for video game and retro console gaming. And what this does is that it takes a standard video and audio input that you would get from a game console or some other device at the time, using either composite video or S-Video connections. And in this case, this is using the European video standard called SCART, which is actually an RGB-based analog output device for game consoles. And so you get a true RGB output from the device. Of all of the video connections of retro consoles, RGB is considered the highest quality, as it has true separation of red, green, and blue channels, in addition to sync up and so forth, and audio integration. So instead of getting a kind of a crummy video signal from a composite source, we now take that from RGB. This box essentially is an RGB to HDMI upscaler. And the accepted inputs are anywhere from 240p all the way up to 480i, and output that as 480p to your console or to your display device. There is a newer product on the market called the Retrotech 5X. Due to the chip shortage at the time right now of filming, there is absolutely no stock anywhere, unless you're willing to pay about triple the price on eBay, which is a pointless thing. But this will do essentially the same function as I want to show for this retrofit video right now. And so we are going to be attaching this to a modern display device through HDMI, as almost no TVs or displays or even AV receivers support older connections like S-Video anymore. So this is our ability to connect that to an HDMI output. We are going to be retrofitting the mode here with a 1 terabyte Samsung 870 EVO SSD drive. This is a 2.5-inch SATA-based SSD, which will store almost the entire Sega Saturn library from start to finish. And I say almost because the retail library can fit on this 1 terabyte disk for all regions, North American, Japanese, and European. But there are some fan-based hacks and so forth that have come out over the years to improve the quality of life for certain games that were maybe slow or choppy, and utilize the hardware such as the 4 megabyte RAM card that came out at the time for the Sega Saturn to improve the speed and performance of those games. In addition to fan translations of things like Japanese RPGs, where they would take a translation that was either fan-driven or maybe even sourced from like a third-party port or a first-party port through PlayStation, for example, and import that into the Sega Saturn version of that game, allowing to have the game display Japanese audio with English as a translated text for the subtitles. So that's going to be kind of cool, but that portion of the library exceeds 1 terabyte if you look at the total capacity for the entire drive here. And so we're going to be putting that onto a flash memory SD card. And lastly, for our mode implementation, we're going to be installing a 3D printed SD card reader that's going to sit where the CD-ROM laser assembly sat inside the Sega Saturn. This makes it just a lot easier to access the SD card slot inside in the Sega Saturn. Well, once the mode is inserted into the Sega Saturn, typically you would use a micro SD storage medium for accessing games through the SD card slot on the mode. This is a micro SD to full-size SD adapter that's just wired into a 3D printed harness, making it easy to open the lid of the Saturn and swap out game cards directly without having to rip open the shell of the console every time you want to use it. Alright guys, I'm super excited for this project and I hope you are too. It's time to get down and dirty with the Sega Saturn.